Have you ever been in a situation where you shared something with the other person and he did not get it, or perhaps committed a mistake? Or may have been a situation where you were informed to do something, you thought you understood the message, but you ended up making a mistake. This typically happens when there is miscommunication. So what do we do in such situations? So I'm going to help you with two simple yet effective strategies to deal with the problem of miscommunication. Here they are. Now, typically in any situation, you are either the sender of information or you are the receiver. There are many situations when we do a bit of both, but generally you either play the role of a sender or that of a receiver. The first strategy is to be applied when you are in the role of a sender of message. Let's take an example. So for some reason, you will be unable to attend office the next day. So you call upon one of your colleagues, you look at him and you say that, look, tomorrow I'm not going to be in office. I want you to have a conversation with the client in the first half, understand from the client what data points do we need to look at so that we can accordingly gather the data from the team members. At 5 o'clock in the evening, please make sure that you gather the data for all these data points and you send an email to the client with the complete report. And make sure that you mark me in the CC when you send this email. Are you clear about this? And your colleague says, yes, I'm clear. Now, we might assume that your colleague has understood everything, but there is a problem. You don't really know, has your colleague understood everything in exactly the same fashion as you wanted him to understand? So now you request your friend, you request your colleague to make sure that he repeats everything that he has heard. So here is what your colleague says. So basically, I need to make a phone call to the client in the first half of the day. And at around 5 o'clock in the evening, I need to collect data from all the team members and then send an email to the client. So you can see there are pieces of information that your colleague has missed out on. For example, the phone call has to be made in the first half of the day. And when the report is generated and an email is to be sent, it has to be sent to the client and you have to be marked in the CC. So the moment you ask people to repeat, you can catch all the pieces of information which are missing and you can plug the loopholes, you can fill in the gaps. This process is what we call as validation. In simple sense, you can also call it confirmation. So what is validation or confirmation? It is a process where you ask the listener to repeat all the information that he or she has received from you so that if there are any lapses, you plug in the loopholes, you fill in the gaps. And by doing so, you are sure that you and the other person are on the same page. So this is to be done when you are the sender of the message. Now, in some cases, you are the receiver of the message. So what you do in such scenarios? So let's take an example. Whenever we go to a restaurant or a hotel, you look at the menu card and you call upon the waiter. And you look at the waiter and say, you know what, I would need a lime juice. I would need a veg grill sandwich. And I would also need vanilla ice cream. And the waiter says, very well, sir. Does he run to the kitchen thereafter? No. A good waiter, a responsible one, would repeat the order that you have placed. So he would say, so you have requested for a lime juice, you've requested for a veg grill sandwich and a vanilla ice cream, right? Now, why does the waiter do that? Because the waiter wants to make sure that he has heard you correctly and there is nothing missing. So what the waiter just did is called paraphrasing. And this is something that we also need to do when we are the receiver of information. So what is paraphrasing and how does that work effectively? Let's say you're in the office and you're having a conversation with your manager, with your boss, and your boss tells you the following. Next week, we have a client visit, and therefore I want you to do the following for the client visit. Please make sure that you inform about the client visit to all the team members. Number two, each one of them has to be ready with a presentation deck talking about the work that they've done in the last 1 month. And number three, if there are any questions that they need to ask the client, please ask them to be ready with that too. This is what your boss has told you. Now you adopt the role of paraphrasing. And this is what you do. So, sir, if I've understood you well, this is what I need to do. I need to first inform the team members that next week there is a client visit scheduled, and therefore they need to be prepared for it. They all need to be ready with a presentation deck, which highlights their work for the past 1 month. And last but not the least, they also need to be ready with a list of questions or queries that they want to ask the client to solve their doubts. Is that all, sir? Yes, that's pretty much about it. So what have you done is you have repeated whatever information you gathered from the manager, from the boss. This is exactly what paraphrasing is. And by paraphrasing, you repeat every bit of information that you received from the other person, and you repeat it in your own words to ensure that you have gathered all the pieces of information that you needed to. So these are two simple strategies that we can adopt in our everyday practice to minimize miscommunication and to increase effectiveness. So here they are once again. Number one, when you are the sender of the message, practice validation or confirmation. Confirm with the other person whether he or she has understood your message correctly by asking him to repeat. And if there are any lapses, you plug in the gaps. Number two is paraphrasing. And this is to be done when you are the listener, when you are receiving information. Understand the message and repeat it in your own words so that you are sure that what you heard and understood is exactly what the other person wants you to do. So with confirmation and validation and paraphrasing, you will be in a much better position to minimize or possibly eliminate miscommunication. So the next time around, and perhaps in every important situation, try these two strategies. I'm sure they will help you be and become a very, very good communicator.